I work in New York, and I've been working in New York since I was 16. I recently started working in television as well, so I work on a show called Gotham, which is Baby Batman. We do a fair number of blood effects on that as well, but what I really love doing is blood for theater. So I've worked on the theatrical adaptation of Let the Right One In, which is children vampires, so there's blood everywhere. Actually, a lot of the same stuff that happened with Titus Andronicus happens in Let the Right One In.
God.
And I guess most recently I did a show called Guards at the Taj, where we flooded the stage with blood for the second scene, and the two guys who were in the show rolled around in it for a while, and then later on we chopped 2 hands off on stage. So, but most applicably, I've done a production of Tamburlaine at Theater for a New Audience, which is one of the shows that Shakespeare might have been maybe making fun of a little bit with Titus Andronicus. It's incredibly bloody. The entire thing just escalates from start to finish. And for that, somebody gets their tongue cut out in Tamburlaine, just like in this. So I thought that, we could maybe talk a little bit about how you do all that stuff. And I've promised not to make too much of a mess. So, theatrical stage blood is, in our world, is made mostly out of glucose, which is corn syrup, and dye, and a little bit of soap. There are a whole bunch of different, you'll see, if you shake it up, it gets a little bit sudsy, right? There are a whole bunch of different brands that cost everywhere from, this bottle I think was $25, but the high-end stuff, my favorite stuff, which was developed for the Harry Potter movies, this size bottle costs $100.
Wow.
So, when we start doing blood effects, it can get expensive quickly, but Shakespeare would have probably been using animal blood, and he probably wouldn't have been using as much wet blood as we do. Because this stuff is hygienic and anti-allergen and safe for use on skin and in your mouth and blah, 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 but no one wants to squirt rancid pig's blood in their mouth. So they would often soak a rag in blood, and then during the show that would, you'd get stabbed and go, and drop the rag, and that was representative of blood. We get to use blood bags, which are these little guys. They're made out of saran wrap and done with an impulse sealer, like a heat sealer that you would use to store food and that kind of thing. So this is probably close to what you would use as a standard size blood bag, and really easy to break, right? And there you go. And you do that on yourself, and it would spread out across your shirt and stuff.
You can stand up and look if you want to see.
Use the white paper towel so
Show everybody.
Yeah, looks like blood.
Yeah?
See?
Like,
Yeah.
Now these guys, I'm not going to break one of these right now because this is a ton of blood to use on stage. You don't actually need that much to make an impact. That's probably a tablespoon of blood right there. We rarely, if ever, will use more than that. Another trick that you use in television much more often than in theater are these little guys. That's just the end of a glove, of a washing up glove, like a dishwashing glove, taped to a little piece of PVC. You load it with a little bit of blood, and I can do this one as well, but I want to explain it first. And then you just flick the end, and it goes nice little splatter. And if you've ever seen somebody in a movie or a TV show, beating the crap out of somebody else, and they've got little flicks of blood coming up on their face, that's probably something along these lines. Is what's happening is that there's a prop dude crouched right behind the camera going. That looked great, guys, right? We like to congratulate ourselves a lot.
you said you prefer doing it in the theater. Why?
You don't have to. Television and movies, everything is literal. You have to blow up a car, you literally blow up a car. I blew up a car earlier this year. Because we had to blow up a car.
Okay.
So we just did. And that was great and awesome and fun. But you have to be so much more clever when you're doing something for theater. You have to figure out, so you can't use this in theater because there's nobody there who can hide behind a little couch and like spray somebody with blood. So for instance, I'm doing American Psycho on stage in a couple months, and we're gonna have to do these sprays of blood. And so you have to develop a system that allows that to happen every night the same way, with the same effect, but independent of humans. So we have, you know, those little bike tire inflators? Like you use a little tiny CO2 canister, and you can just pop it on your bike wheel if it, you know, and squeeze the handle, and it inflates your wheel with CO2. We use those with a little PVC cannon barrel, and we can, you know, again and again and again, you can spray people with blood. And I think that is such a more interesting solution than this. This is cute, and this is fun, and this is something great for like your kids if they like, you know, are really into making films.
You're playing like an advanced paintball on stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh.
Though, I mean, we do have a couple of little paintball gun systems that shoot blood pellets, but largely we actually use those for television and movies because you can stand right behind camera and get a really good shot. It's got to be a little bit more, actors are really unpredictable. So when you're doing something for stage, you have to be really careful about your actor just going off the rails one night. You know, you got to assume that they're not going to be doing the same thing that they said they'd do. So you got to factor that in. And the broadness of a little cannon, a little CO2 cannon, is actually a lot safer than firing a specific little pellet. Even though the pellet is a really cool solution, and you can imagine the stagehand would be having a great time standing backstage trying to shoot actors. I guess the last little thing that I wanted to show you guys is, before I actually spray some blood in my mouth and drool everywhere, is this stuff, which I did Rocky Das Musical, which was the adaptation of Rocky, the movie, on stage as a musical. It was originally in Germany, so because I don't like to take it too seriously, I like to call it Rocky Das Musical and not Rocky the Musical. But we had to do live fight effects at the end of Rocky, because that is the entire point of the show Rocky. And so we had to have these two actors get totally beat up on stage in front of everybody. And the craziest thing was that we had two other actors carrying cameras and jumbotrons on the side of the stage. This was the weirdest thing that you could have ever watched on Broadway. Like, it was bizarre.
That was the best part of the show.
I liked it.
It was great.
It's the equivalent of my mom says I'm cool. But we had to have them live beat up. And so we use this stuff. This stuff is this awesome little product called Third Degree. It's 2-part silicone. So it's like, you know, epoxy. But it does that thing that latex does, where it's rubbery and it sticks to your skin a little bit. So I'm just going to show you sort of how we would use this and apply it. And we were lucky because, you know, there's that whole trope in boxing movies of boxers getting covered in Vaseline, you know, so that the gloves slip off and they don't make good impact. So every time they went into the corner, what we'd do is we'd have their cornermen, who were other actors. So we had to teach dancers and singers how to do makeup, shoot things with cameras so that, you know, it was advantageous to us, and then other people how to, like, act all beat up while they were covered and dance while they were covered in, you know, this stuff, closing their eyes. We literally closed our Rocky's eye at one point with it and just covered his eye. So, looks like Vaseline, so you can just smear it on. And it dries pretty quick. It takes, you know, 5 or 6 minutes to start really settling up. But before that happens, we've got this lovely little product called Fresh Scab, which is disgusting. And
like congealed blood.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's supposed to look like. So you can take a little bit of that, load it on the end of your spatula, and just kind of drag it through. And with the addition of some makeup, which I did not bring with me, I got here and I was like, man, I really should have bought a bruise palette, because that's a thing that you can actually buy.
So let me just see what you just did. Oh, okay, so you're giving yourself like a cut.
Yeah. So you let it all build up in there. And then you can just add just enough of it to start a little bit of a drip.
And someone was doing this in the corner of the boxing ring.
Wow.
The other actor.
Wow, we had them, and they're talking and acting and like, I can't go on, Mickey, I can't do it. Wow, they're getting this all happening. We actually, I don't know if you particularly remember the ins and outs of Rocky, but a lot of the tension comes from he's never had his nose broken in the ring. And during the second to last round or the final round, he gets his nose broken by Apollo Creed. And we gave him one of these with some Velcro. And we put some Velcro in his glove. And he just stuck it in his glove, and at the right moment he went squirt and just sprayed blood all over everything. And he comes off and he's like, my nose! My nose! Yep. Your nose, buddy. But this is the messy world of blood. It's a lot of fun, but it is sticky.
You do all types of special effects then, so ranging from happiness to...
We do
Rain, wind, fire, fog, explosions.
anything that anybody else doesn't want to do normally ends up in our lab. We do an awful lot of fog and haze and smoke effects. Do a lot of pyrotechnic effects.
Guns.
Guns. We do some guns. Yeah.
You should, if you want to see a nice reel, go to, it's jmfx.net, and that's the website, and it just automatically starts playing a reel that shows all these different things. So you want to show the
Yeah. Let's do it.
tongue, pretend your tongue was cut out?
Yeah. This is actually mixed down blood. It's mixed with water and so is the stuff in here and whatever you would put in here, because you never need full thickness blood. That doesn't look like blood in real life,
I still haven't gotten over King Lear cutting his eyes out.
Oh, that is such a good.
It's a good one too.
Yeah, it's a great one. Shakespeare is pretty good for every kind of gory effect that you could ever want. You could probably find it in some Elizabethan Jacobean drama. Like, it will happen. So, you gotta put this back on first.
Can't get it in the jar.
I just don't want to act too hard and throw it away.
Tell me when I can start my video.
So, this is, could start it, I guess. The actor would palm this, say whoever's playing Lavinia would actually, because she comes on from off stage, so she could probably just start with a mouthful of blood. But in Tamburlaine, the guy gets his tongue cut out on stage. So he palmed this, they came in, did a whole bunch of business, squirts it into his mouth, and then they chuck a piece of veal covered in fake blood across the stage. And it was disgusting. So, here we go. Business, business, business.
Oh, very good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.